Yeah,
Yes.
you spoke of 2 of them last week, and you said you had 25 in your Rolodex.
Yeah. Well, one is real simple. I would need I'd need a lot more time. I'll give you one that's really simple. And this is for basically dead ball officiating and clock awareness. So you have someone with playing cards, right? And they put up the playing card, and let's say they put up a 5 of hearts. So you're going to do an out of bounds signal or traveling, and the playing card is the clock. So, and you got to keep your eyes on the playing card. So you'll go, they put up a 5 of hearts, and you go red, and you just say to yourself 5 on the clock. And then it's going to be an out of bounds going the other way, and you're just going to go, it's a 4 of hearts, and you can go red, 4's on the clock. Okay, and they just go through the whole deck, and you got to pick up that card each time by doing the signal. So you can't, if you turn away, you won't you won't get the playing card. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yep. Okay.
All right. So, Todd, did that answer your question?
That was perfect. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. All right. Once again, we posted a link to the clips that we're showing today in GroupMe, and I am posting the link right now in the chat. So everybody will have access to them. If you want to watch them on a separate device, this is taking a little bit longer than I had anticipated. There we go. Okay, here we go. Posting him now. All right, here we go. Today's topic is verticality. If you have any questions during the meeting, be sure to share your questions or comments. If you post anything in chat, we'll do our best to relay it to the group. Also, a couple of notes before we get started. Natalie texted us today. She informed us that she's not able to join us today. The NBA has backed them off from joining any type of online conference calls via Zoom or any other platform until they're informed otherwise. So she's going to check into that, and as soon as she gets the okay, she'll rejoin us. All right. Going through verticality, we realized that I've gone through all the rules, and for the most part, the rules and the principles of verticality are pretty similar from level to level, from high school all the way to WNBA, NBA. There are some slight differences between men's and women's, but basically, the basic principles are pretty much the same. As a matter of fact, NCAA women and National Federation High School are exactly identical. So before I really dig into that, can anyone tell me how many principles there are in verticality for college women in high school? Anybody?
7.
Oh, hey, let me clarify something real quick. Anybody but TC, Nicole, or Drew. They're disallowed because we went over this yesterday.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and talk since no one else wants to. Just kidding, just kidding. Okay, so for me, the 3 principles that I've learned is a defender at the spot prior to the upward shooting motion? Are they in a vertical position? Do they jump forward? Do they jump to the side?
Correct.
They're allowed to jump backwards.
That is correct. Anyone else has anything else? Okay, let's go over something really quick. The basic principle of verticality has a lot to do with your vertical plane. And B is 100% correct. You must have established initial legal guarding position before verticality even becomes an issue. But I will tell you this much, the men's rule does a much better job of actually defining verticality. Of course, they use the cone, which is slightly different. They do a much better job of digging in and actually defining verticality and vertical plane. But we have to understand what a vertical plane is before we know what we're looking at, before we can pass judgment. And there's a very important point that I highlighted that I want to share with everyone. The definition of a vertical plane is a plane that passes through a vertical line, a plane of perspective passing through the line of sight and perpendicular to the ground plane. Now let's look at perspective. Your perspective is the way you see something. That's what's important. We have 3 positions on the floor, and we all understand that a play could be perceived differently depending upon your perspective from your position. So when we're judging verticality, we have to judge it from our perspective on that play, regardless of what it may look like from a different position. Very, very important. All right. We have a special guest joining us today. Mr. Greg Small is taking time out of his busy day, out of all of his yard mowing, to join us on the call today. Greg, would you like to speak to everyone?
Hey, Wayne. Glad to be here. Good to see a lot of new faces. Just kind of trying to stay connected in this time, and certainly appreciate everything you all are doing as far as training and sharing information. So again, to everybody, just take care, stay healthy, and hope to see some of you very soon.
There you go. Greg, thank you very much. I appreciate that, brother. All right. So we've covered a few fundamentals of verticality. There are 7 in women, 7 in men. There are 7 in women, 7 in high school, several in men. And the WNBA has a definition of verticality that's also very, very descriptive. And I think that would help us also. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these principles that we've been using, and we are going to apply them to the clips that we're going to review. And let's start with Mr. Derek Dunbar. And let's start with the clip that he shared with us today to review. Derek, are you on the call?
Yes, sir.
All right, excellent, excellent. I tell you what, I'm going to pull up your clip, and we're going to play it a couple of times, let everybody see it. And then I want you to walk everybody through your perspective on this play.
Wayne, can you center the camera more on the screen, please, so we can see it a little bit better? It's a little bit low. Okay. Can you turn your laptop a little bit more toward TV? There we go. Can you a little closer, possible? Okay, that should work. Thank you. Perfect.
Yes, ma'am. All right, D, I'm going to play this clip a couple of times and then walk everyone through it, please. Okay, you're in lead position, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, what was your perspective on this play as it's developing?
So my perspective on this play as it's developing is that we've got a legal defender, and as the offensive player gets the ball in the post, he's been quick to make moves all night long, and he goes underneath the basket. Most of the whole game, he's going underneath the basket to go all the way around to the opposite side, and this time while he's underneath the basket, he tries to initiate contact with the defender to try to get on the other side of the basket to shoot a layup. So legal defender, offense initiated contact, and I think, in my opinion, he was vertical. So on the shot block, and so when he swiped down to block the shot, the only contact he made was with the ball.
All right, good. So we have him establishing initial legal guarding position, correct?
Yes, sir.
And he remained within his vertical plane. The offensive player, when he attempted to score, did he go straight up, or did he invade the defender's vertical plane?
In my opinion, he invaded the defender's vertical plane.
Okay. And so you judge the conduct to be incidental when we played on. All right. Do we have any other perspectives on the play?
Let's talk about who has the A look in this play and who has all the information.
There you go.
Lead at this point is probably a little straight line. The defender is on the backside of the offensive player, so really lead has very, very little opportunity to get all the information on this play. I would say that center would have every answer to this play, and that's the one that you would want to say, I know at lead, the self-talk is, I don't have all the answers, so I want to trust that somebody else, my center, does. So I'm gonna lay off this play no matter what happens, unless it's just
So Jason, talk about the center's position adjustment or lack thereof.
okay. Can we see the play again, Wayne?
Yep.
Yeah. How you doing, Al?
Hi, how are you?
Okay. Regarding center's position, their adjustment on this play, JB, you can give us some insight. I really don't believe there's much of an adjustment your center or slot could have made on this play, considering location of the players and movement of the offensive player toward the end line. Now, I have a question, and this is for the group, and this is for Derek also. At the beginning of this play, location of the ball and players, could we have been in a better position and lead with the potential to rotate prior to an entry pass to the post?
What about it, Derek?
So I think that I absolutely should have rotated about a second before they swung the ball to the weak side in the post entry. It was all the way on the strong side on the wing, and so that's where I was coming from. I think that if I would have done a better job of play calling and not just trying to mirror the ball for the sake of mirroring the ball, that I would have been in a better position to rotate whenever it came down to it. And I absolutely rotated to put the crew in a better position to officiate the play.
I agree. Because we look at the location of the ball right now on this play, we should be in the close down position with the potential to rotate, so that when that pass is made, we're already rotating.
And right, just freeze frame it right here. And I think I mentioned it a couple of calls earlier. We have to we have to have a lead mentality at trail and center. And we have to train ourselves to know, for example, right there at trail, the ball has gone to the weak side. So I know that my lead should be rotating and I should be closing down from trail to seed. And even if lead doesn't rotate over, if I close down because the ball's all the way over on the weak side, I may end up having the A look at the play. In this particular situation, because trail doesn't accelerate down to the center position, he really is straight line from the backside, and we're really leaving this play up to just one referee, and that's the center official. And by the way, center on this play is on ball. He's got multiple defenders. He's got a lot going on.
Correct.
Because of the rotation, he's also going to have the A on the verticality play.
Yes,
So
I
it's
agree.
okay. This is the principle of it's okay to have two centers, but it's never okay to have two trails.
Exactly.
Hey, this is Rob. One quick point, Derek. If we could bring the clip back. Okay, if we could look here at the lead positioning, I don't know if you could spotlight it so that we can see the visual while I'm talking. Are you able to spotlight the video?
Not on the second iPad, no.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Okay. Well, I would just say let's look at the lead positioning on this play. And in my opinion, I think we get too deep sometimes, and this is an example of that. I like to work closer to the boundary line, and a visual cue that I
have 5 and 6.
A few years ago at camp, someone told me, we'll pause it right there. If we work in the lead so that we can see the front of the rim, and that allows us to be in a position where we're able to referee plays up the rim. Just think right now, if we have a strong side drive to the rim,
I have
what kind of help would we'd be looking through the backboard. So I'd actually like to see
the box number 3171.
I'd like to see Derek come up. He's on the top side of the S right there.
Okay.
I'd
Yeah,
like
I
to
didn't
see him down on the bottom
box
side
for
of the S,
3171.
and maybe another half.
Rob, hold on one second, please. Can you guys please mute your lines? Everyone, can you please mute your lines so we can hear? Thank you. Okay, Rob, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, you're fine. No, you're good. I'd like to see Derek come on that front side of the S, and right where he's at the 3-foot post up mark is fine. But just when you work that deep, you have no shot to assist on plays at the rim. And really, when I use the term assist, there's going to be plays that are your primary plays that you're going to have a responsibility and ownership of, and we're just too deep. So I don't know if that makes sense, Derek, or if you ever heard that, but again, the visual cue that I've used is try to work the lead so that you can see the front of the rim. Okay. And I think this is something that we see a lot when we break down videos. We see a lot of leads working way too deep. And this is pretty glaring example of that in this case.
It's an excellent point. Derek, what do you think?
Oh no, so I've had the opportunity to watch a lot more video than I did during the year here recently. And one of the things that I noticed is that I do get too deep at lead. And I have recently heard wanting to see the front of the rim at lead. And as I watch video, it strong side drives, weak side drives, trying to assist, or it just puts me out of position to get the best look. And so, man, I'm itching to get an opportunity to get back on the court to be able to apply some of those things. So, thank you, Rob.
No, appreciate it. Thank you.
That's really good. And another little thing that I want to add, going off of a lot of what you guys already said, but just let's keep in mind that at lead, we have to find reasons to rotate, right? Because ultimately, lead is the one that's going to get the other two referees in the best position. And another thing that we can notice here is that the offensive player is making the post player, when he receives the ball, he is making a power move to the basket. Right. And a lot of the times they make their power move and they end up almost under the net. And so I think this is when we really have to do a good job of keeping our air low and not penalizing good defense. Because I know a lot of the times it just looks ugly, but if the offensive player got all the way under the hoop, obviously they're going to have to jump back to try to score. So just keeping in mind that we have to keep our air low, be disciplined, and not penalize good defense is another thing to keep in mind.
Excellent. Excellent. Any other comments on this clip before we move forward? All right. Jason, are you on the phone on the line with us?
Yep.
Okay, excellent. Jason, we're going to step into your clip next. I love this clip. There's a lot going on in this clip, and I'll play it once again. I'll play it to you a couple of times, and then we'll have you walk everybody through your perspective on this play.
Okay, so just stop it right there, Wayne. First thing I want to say is anytime you watch tape, and obviously, this is a principles of verticality call, but this play has so many things going on that there are multiple teaching points that you can learn from. And for those of you that were on the court club call yesterday, you got to be a part of that information and understand all the different teaching points. So I'm going to cover a few of those as well, because when I watched the play yesterday, I learned a lot from Ed, and I want to try to relay some of that to you guys as well. It's not just the verticality, but everything that's going on from each position on the play. So to get these plays, to get a sequence like this going and to get it right, I think it starts first of all with the pregame. And, we want to say for sure we want to keep the best players in the game, especially the bigs, because bigs are definitely an anomaly. They're a high value in high school and college basketball, because there's not that many of them to go around. So we want to make sure that each foul that we put on them is a quality foul. And, to do that, when it comes to verticality, we have to trust our partners. We have to understand what angle you have, what angle your partners have, and to be able to take a quick 0.2 second snapshot and say open, closed. That would be your self-talk. Open look, closed look when you take those snapshots. And then, fundamentals. Talk about, BB mentioned your air being low, having patient whistles, and letting the play start, develop, and finish. And then finally, the big major point that I'll say that probably coaches want in every single basketball game is consistency. What's legal on one end has to be legal on the other end. And if we do that to a high level each and every night, we should walk off the floor feeling pretty good about our performance. So that's kind of the mentality going into the game. And then if we'll just dive into the play just a little bit before we even get to the verticality, we'll talk about some other teaching points when you're watching the tape. Stop right there. So I come down at trail, And at trail, we have a tendency to overrun the play. But what we need to be doing at trail, and Ed talks about verbal prompts. He talks about self-talk and the verbal prompts on every new possession, our clocks, fouls, players, and then reading the demeanor of the defense. So when I come up the floor at trail here, I should be reading that number 4 White is very disengaged on this play. He's a non-factor as far as a defender on this play. So I overrun this play slightly. And what I should be looking at is 2-on-2, 3-on-3, 4-on-4 matchups that are going to be somewhere other than the primary defender that's disengaged. So yesterday, Ed made a great point. If I, instead of on the P in RUP, I am on the R in RUP, then I can be able to see that screen action that's getting ready to come up and see it develop. I'll run that. Because really, at that point in time, what can I not see? What do I not have? What is the one thing that we have to have on every single play before we make a decision? What are we looking for?
Open look.
Yes.
Stand for the ball.
Yes. Oh, an open look. We want to see space. So even though I've set myself up to see space between the offensive player and a non-engaged defender, I haven't set myself up to see space to the critical part of this play at the moment. Center does have coverage on this play on the front side, but I cannot assist on the back side. And when we have high ball screens, it's highly imperative that we have trail and center on the back and front side taking care of this for each of us. So if we keep running it, now I back up a little bit to see space and stop right there. I'll make another point. We talk about eliminating useless movements. Had I set up on the U initially, like I should have been, at this point, I would not had to have made any position adjustments whatsoever. I could have literally been standing there with my eyes still watching the whole play. And then when the play develops down the lane line, then I can start to make my adjustment as well toward the baseline. So stop or back it up just a little bit, Wayne, right where it's at the top of the free throw, right there. So let's talk about the center position. So at center, we have a tendency to set up and just park ourselves there and not move. And I do this as well. I matter of fact, I used to teach that, less movement is more, but in today's game, where there's tons of dribble drives, center has got to be active and engaged. And most importantly, center has to be fighting for the A look. So now my self-talk would be White closed. White closed. The White defender is closed to me right now if I'm at center. So I have to be anticipating what position adjustment I can make to give myself an open look to this play and be able to assist. So as we keep going, stop right there. Center somewhat has a straight line on this play. The front side defender. It's going to be Leeds primary, number 4. But if center took 1 or 2 steps higher, and when I watch and teach, and I see a lot of officials at center, they're moving around too much. They're reacting off the players and they're trying to dictate their angle, but it's jumpy. Everything needs to be smooth. The adjustment is only 1.5 or 2 steps at the very, very most to give yourself an A look. So conversely, if center went up, he would have a great look. If center goes down, then at that point in time, he's walked himself more into traffic and more into a stack. And also he has to have awareness. Somebody made a great point yesterday. I can't remember who it was, that this defender out here on the far right wing, he has the potential to get involved in this play. And if center were to walk himself down or even stay right where he's at, he wouldn't have a great awareness or a great anticipation of this third defender coming out of the blue. And now I've got to referee him too. But if he button hooks himself out 1 or 2 steps at an angle, a slide angle, then you have a big picture of what's about to happen. Does that make sense? Yes, no, maybe?
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent point.
Okay. So also at center, we need to have the mentality and the thought of having active feet. A lot of times when we sit up and park, we get very flat-footed. Our energy and our awareness comes from the feet up. So I want my feet to be light and my feet to lead my body wherever I want it to go. And you do this and you develop these habits, and when you first start to do them, you're thinking about them. After you've done them multiple times, this becomes a subconscious thought, and you just do it without thinking about it. So that's at the center. Now let's talk about lead real quick. If you're back in the now, who is lead got in this play? What's his primary focus?
Secondary defender.
Secondary defender. So he should be looking at number 4 white. Now, when we break down this play and we look at lead's head, as the ball handler gets closer to the lane, it appears right there, it appears that lead is looking more on ball than off ball. So, and this is a big discipline talking point. If you say to yourself, secondary defender, get off ball, then eventually a mental picture will start to come in your head when you're on the floor. And again, it becomes a subconscious thought. So as the play develops, you don't have the back end of this play. You have this play from start, develop, and finish. And also, yesterday we talked about lead's positioning or his body language. It looks like he's flat-footed, leaning back at an angle. What probably the best position that would give us the A shot of maybe catching the play at lead is the angling your shoulders more at a 45 or even backing out just a half step. Right now, he's really, really pinched tight. If he was on the E at more of a 45 degree angle, we might have a better look at grabbing this play. And so when the play happens, lead really has no shot of, he does not have the A look. Who has the A look on this play?
Slot C.
Center. I think a good rule of thumb for verticality plays is anytime a player is jumping from A to B, north to south, your center is going to have. Did I get muted?
You're good now.
Okay. Your center is going to have the best look at verticality plays when the defender is jumping from north to south. If the defender is jumping from east to west, lead is going to have, or sideline to sideline, lead is going to have better looks at those plays. So you can go ahead and run it, Wayne.
Hey, Jason, hold on.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go back to where the verticality part and pause it. All right, pause. I don't know if Derek is still on the phone or still on here or not, but this is a great example of what Rob was talking about as far as the lead position, being able to maybe get a little bit closer to the inline there, so that way you can see the front of the rim. Because Jason just pointed out, it basically becomes one referee on this play. We're in no assist mode here whatsoever, in my opinion. But if we can move that lead, and this goes for all of us, and this, by me saying this is just reminding myself that I need to continue to be able to be in a position and lead where I can see the front of the rim. I think this is another classic example of the lead cannot assist here with anything up top.
Totally agree.
I'm still on. Thanks, Jason. Thanks, Garrett.
Cool. And you're going to hear, if any of you guys are part of Court Club and you hear what's being said there, if any of you guys are on this call, you know what's being said there. If any of you guys are on any other Zoom calls, hopefully everyone is saying the same thing, which I think is very important because basketball is just repetitious, and you should be hearing the things that Al Batista says about drills, primary defender, secondary defender, primary. You should be hearing this religiously, so that way, because Jason just said it here not too long ago. We should be having this in our pregame.
They don't want to talk.
We should be saying the same thing in our pregame every single game.
And he will have to adjust to that. You're not going to change and become an introvert to appease him.
Can you mute your, excuse me, ma'am, can you mute your phone? Do we know? Okay, there we go. I think we're good now.
Well, hopefully my point didn't get lost in all of that, but we should be hearing the same thing every Zoom call, from Court Club to this to Running with the Herd, which is another one. Everyone should be saying the same thing, and that's what allows us now to have better judgment when it comes to play calling. We're able to be in dependable positions. Now it just becomes second nature.
All right.
Yeah,
So
and like real quick, like Garrick said, and if you're not the crew chief, just talk about this, right? I mean, I know that a lot of the times when we're not the crew chief, we're just kind of sitting back listening, but this is something that's very important because it's going to cause consistency within the crew. And like Garrick said, this is a very important thing that we need to be talking about during our pregame. So if your crew chief doesn't, just have the courage to just share it. It's okay, right? Just to make sure that we're all on the same page.
Correct. And before we move further with the clip, we have a question from Jacob on chat. His question is, how important is seeing the front of the rim versus big picture in women's basketball? Very good question.
Yeah, that is a very good question, but I still think it still puts you in a good position to even assist. I mean, those girls they're getting taller, stronger. I mean, you got some girls that can dunk the basketball as well. So I don't see any. I think you should be doing this in adult rec leagues at YMCA or whatever, because that's just habits. We need good habits, because believe it or not, it's going to feel weird if you're not used to doing it, but you're going to be in a position to be able to assist the crew and be able to come with a correct call that may actually save the crew. My opinion. If there's someone on here that has on the women's game, you don't think that it's that important, then obviously say something. But I don't think it's a good position to be in general.
Yeah, Garrick, I totally agree with you, because ultimately, if we just think about it, the wider we are, the more that we can see, right? Because if we're pinched, I mean, we're lessening, I guess, our vision, right? So the wider we are, the more that we can see. So I think in women's, men's, I think it's ultimately just fundamentals. And I know it's something that takes a lot of self-talk, especially for me, because as plays start coming to the basket, a lot of the times we have a tendency to kind of pinch or go more towards the paint. So my self-talk is just coming, just stay wide at lead, because from my experiences, you can just see a lot more and you have a better look at these types of plays. So.
Yep. Thank you, Jason. Sorry.
no worries. So keep running just for a half second, Wayne. All right, stop right there. So this is a point that I picked up on yesterday. On that rebounding action right there, it was a good decision to pass on all the contact. There was no possession consequence. But had the rebounder got bumped and and stepped on the inline or got bumped and traveled, you know, this is the kind of play where you have to say to yourself, is this marginal or illegal contact? And did it cause the possession consequence or cause the violation? So at this point in time, the play on is the right thing to do because none of that happened. But just know that if that guy who is obviously going to secure the rebound goes to the floor or violates, we have to make a decision. Did he get helped or did he do it on his own? So, all right. And now we're back into a fast transition. Stop real quick. This is where, again, and I'm just now starting to do this in my game and learning, but this is where we have to have a mental reset just for a half second. Our verbal prompts, clocks, fouls, players, demeanor of the defender, and also for myself going to trail the lead. I can tell already that we're going to have a lot of action at the rim. There's going to be a lot going on. And we just had at the other end a very good no-call verticality play. So my self-talk is I have to have a patient whistle. I have to have air in my belly. And I have to understand that we have to be consistent down at this end based on what we just deemed legal at the other end. So at this point in time, I've got a lot going on. And my head is back toward 12 red, and I'm trying to find the ball handler as well and to see how he clears. However, with that being said, I'm fighting this whole time on this play to get that angle, but I'm never going to have the A look at this. Hopefully, my center has busted his butt and come down and is somewhere around maybe where the fouls two is in the graphic or whatever, or free throw line extended. And he's going to be able to assist on all this action that is coming into the paint, any kind of low grab, trip, anything like that. Center's going to have the best look. My head is still back at the offensive player. I've left one player unrefereed at this moment, and he's the main guy. This is the guy that's the secondary defender that's set up just outside the restricted area. So just my new self-talk needs to be an awareness of where's my secondary defender, because that's going to be my guy to referee for sure. So as we keep running, okay, just stop right there real quick and run it back. So I have two things that could happen to help set us up for success in this play. Number one, it's a very fast transition, and we want to have our self-talk to get there. In a perfect world, I would be set up on the baseline already to receive this play and standing still. If I can't get there, I used to when I was 25, but not anymore. And by the way, Nate, you won't be able to when you're my age either. So, but anyway, if I can't get there, I need to say, I've got to pull up. So I'm going to be standing still, having the open look to everything that I possibly can and give myself a best chance for success. But what I do is I keep running, keep fighting, keep trying to beat the angle, and I get really, really, really deep. And at the very last second, I referee the secondary defender. I deem him legal, but to be totally honest, if this is a block charge RA play, I may not have all the answers. But fortunately, this is a verticality POV play, and my experience, and I've watched enough tape, and also my self-talk to know that we just had one at the other end, allows me to make a correct judgment and no call on this play. So if we keep running, we talk about fundamentals. Stop. So red gets the rebound. We're getting ready to head the other way. But one of the basic learning points that we teach when you first start refereeing is don't come off the baseline. And some people teach it a little bit different, but the point's basically the same. don't come off the baseline till the ball has cleared the free throw line. And a lot of times what we see when you first start out, as soon as the defender gets the rebound, we want to come off the baseline and get ready to come with the ball. And if we do that, then we can leave ourselves out to dry if something like this happens. A quick deflection, change of possession. Now we've got to be sitting right there ready to receive the play and being able to see the defender where he sits up, where it starts, develops, and finish. Our eyes are standing completely still. Our concentration is at 110% level. And if we got the last one right, we sure as heck should be able to get this play officiated correctly. And we did. Anybody want to chime in on that?
So any other comments, observations? Great breakdown, by the way.
That's just something super cool to have happen. That sequence of plays just back to back to back is just awesome to see happen. It's like it was awesome.
You know, the one thing that I also noticed in this sequence of plays is that we did a great job of picking up the location of the secondary defender. We did a great job of realizing that they were in initial legal guard position prior to even elevate off the floor. And that's the most important piece, because if we're not in initial legal guard position, then verticality is not an issue, because that defender will be responsible for the contact, unless the offensive player does something abnormal, ward off, high knee, etc. But we did a great job of finding the defender and their location on the floor. Do you have any other observations from this clip before we move to the next? All right. Jenna, we're going to slide into your clip next. Another great clip. Another great clip.
Yeah, this clip is pretty interesting.
Okay, once again, we will play the clip a couple of times, and then we'll walk through with Jenna's perspective on the play.
So this is right after a throw-in. White, they steal the ball. So Erie gets the ball, and they go, and Vito Brown's taking it to the rim. And we have Dragon, he's the defender right here, the post guy. So he gets 2 feet on the floor, and he's outside the restricted area as well. But he gets 2 feet on the floor, and he elevates and jumps straight up. And then as the contact occurs, you can see his hands come down. So what makes this play interesting is we have to now deem, does the contact of the offensive player going into him make the defender collapse and come down, which causes that foul? Or we have to deem if it's a legal play. I was very lasered into I thought he re-reached. I thought he came down and got him on the arms. Now watching this play over and over again, it's kind of a crazy one, because you can make an argument for an offensive foul, you can make an argument for a no call, and you can also make an argument for a defensive foul. So I was wondering what some of y'all's perspectives were about this, but also at lead, I can say that I am wide. It was right after a throw-in, so maybe too wide, but at least I was able to see, all the contact, the whole play start, develop, and finish, and then make a decision on it. Does anybody have any thoughts about offense, defense, no call?
Well, I'll take a stab at this, Jenna. First off, look at the positioning example here compared to some of the examples we've seen earlier. I think this is really good as far as outside in. She gets caught in transition, but right there she stops. She's not too deep. And let's just watch when she picks up the secondary defender. Right there, which is good. So from a position standpoint, I would use this as a model and then compare it against some of the other examples we saw where we could look to improve. And then I would just say this, Jenna, with this play, I think you just mentioned it has options. So we, another way to say that is gray area play. We've got choices on this, and there's a lot of subjectivity. So I look at this. I look at the time, and we're 3 seconds ago until halftime, and I believe that Wisconsin is in the green, right?
Wisconsin is up.
Yeah, Wisconsin's the defender.
Yes.
Yeah. So again, just you'll hear different perspectives on this, but this play has options. The road team's down by 12. We have a play here where we could easily put a whistle on. And now going into halftime, it just the play is not going to potentially take on a life of its own. And I'm not endorsing taking the path of least resistance, but there's got to be some feel for time, score, team playing uphill. We're about to go, because I guarantee you, if Jenna no calls this play, right, wrong, or indifferent, there's going to be pushback probably leaving the floor heading to halftime. So now you have the whole halftime to sit on that, and instead of taking an opportunity on a play that has options, call the foul, and now you kind of put the road coach at ease, and now they go into halftime feeling a little bit more comfortable with the crew. And again, I know we have a lot of different varying experience levels on here, and I'm not suggesting that we manipulate or allow that to influence our decision-making, but we'd also be naive if we didn't think that that was part of the decision-making and part of just the survival of what we do on a nightly basis.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, we watch his play and we try and see both sides. What could the defender have done better? And he literally has 2 feet on the floor, jumping vertical as he can be, and the contact, we can argue, causes him to collapse. I thought it was more of a re-reach at the time, so I made a decision on it. And then we look at the offensive player, we can see that he is leading with his elbow some as well. So you can make a argument to call an offensive foul on this, and you can also say that the contact was pretty equal and make a no call about it. I've heard all different opinions about this play, but like you were saying, those are some good points to take in.
Jenna, I think in looking at this play, one thing we need to remember with verticality is we can never expect the defender's arms to be totally vertical even when they start. So even when he starts his jump here off of 2 feet, his arms are slightly tilted forward, and that's going to be okay. With the arm, I see a slight arm bend. I don't really see an extension. I was more focused on the knee. I think, this could be one of those plays where we see it doesn't get to that point, but something to be aware of is if he leads with the knee. This could even be a play that we potentially review for a flagrant foul, just because of the, where the contact would occur. But for watching it the first time, I saw a re-reach as well. I thought he was vertical. I thought the offensive player's contact made his arms come down, but then I thought it was a point contact play. But I can see it going either way as well.
Yeah, my supervisor did bring up the knee situation as well, but usually, and this is just speaking in general, we'll see the guys start to bend over and hold themselves when they actually get hit. So his reaction didn't indicate that happened as well.
Yeah, I don't think it was enough in this situation. I just thought that, something to be aware of just on plays like this that happens.
Can we talk a little bit more about what you guys mean when you say re-reach for those that may not know?
So whenever he elevates from the ground, like we said, he was vertical. His arms are straight up. I mean, this is really vertical to me. This is great defense. And what I used to have a bad habit of doing is I would check off on the verticality. And so he'd be vertical, but his arm would come down real quick and swipe at the ball. So it'd be vertical like this and swipe down. Whenever they are vertical, then reach down, we call that a re-reach. Because they have maintained that verticality, now they're illegal. And that's something I've been working on a lot, because I used to just check off on the verticality and I wouldn't get my eyes to the re-reach, and I miss point of contact fouls.
Hey, Jenna. Hey, Jenna.
Hey, Ed.
How you doing? Listen, I like to laugh because I had this play sent to me to review from a team standpoint. And I'll tell you exactly what I said, because I know that the coaches teach no swipes and lead with the chest and do not swipe. So Bender here was working hard on his defense, actually swipes with his left arm. And that was a coaching point they gave him after this play, right? So in other words, yeah, there's reaction for getting hit in the chest, but if you see a more overt, and this is the word I use, swipe down, from a player standpoint, that's a preventable. That player could prevent that foul by not swiping down, and it was with his left arm. So that just happened to be that play is someplace in one of my folders.
That's funny that they said that.
Yeah, but it was more of a coaching standpoint,
Yeah.
and we were on the same page there, but basically because, and trust me, you guys get the benefit of the doubt. That's why I'm there. But there's there's definitely an action there. I mean, let's put it this way: calling a defensive foul was easy to defend.
Absolutely.
Right.
That's a good
point. The word is swipe down.
That's a great point, Ed. And going back to what Rob was saying earlier, this is not easy, and it's important not to be too pure on plays like this. Like Ed said, a defensive foul is easy to defend. Time, score, what's your best decision on this play? And I totally agree with Ed. I mean, defensive foul is a good decision. And, if you don't call it, you're definitely getting a lot of pushback from White.
Well, take your visual baseline. You're building pictures in your head. The last clip which we ran yesterday and Jason just ran now, clearly those defenders are leading with their chest and there are no swipe downs. And all those legal plays that you would correctly no call in those sequences, they look different than this.
It's a good one. Anybody else have anything to add?
Can I add something?
Yes, sir.
Run the play from the beginning. And this is just a good drill for everybody. And we're going to put ourselves in the lead position. Ready? And we're just going to focus on the defense. Just runs legal, illegal, foul. Okay, again. Legal, illegal, foul. Great job of processing legal, illegal, whistle. That's great. Legal, illegal. One more time. And if you do this, this is really going to help your officiating when you get on the court. Legal, illegal.
Jenna, I could add just one more thing on this play. If we look at Jenna when she blows her whistle, this is just something to be aware of on all plays. But, she blows with her inside arm, which, we want to work on, obviously, using both arms. So if she would use her left on the left side, that would be ideal. But, it's not for everybody. So if she were to use her right arm, though, and stand, more stationary, as she blows with her right arm, she's also beginning to walk, and she closes off her vision to the players. So her whistle initiates dead ball officiating. She should stand still at the spot for 1 second longer before she sees her partners coming in to rotate and then start her movement to the table.
Yeah, that's a really good point because especially if he does do something that's overt towards me, I'm not going to be able to see it to administer a technical if I need to. So that's another reason for blowing with the outside hand. That's a good point.
Hey, Jenna, just in the spirit of effective communication, what kind of dialogue did you get from Coach Buford on this?
Yeah, he was, I can't remember too well. This was probably near the middle of the year, but he was upset. We did talk about this play. We talked because you can't see the more reaction, but he starts going like this and kind of, he paced down a little bit, then back up. And I think we talked about, he puts his hands on his head.
He didn't say anything now? That was just verbal, he wasn't talking to you there?
No, but when I did go report, we were near each other. We talked about the verticality, and he mentioned that, well, he talked first. And so he said that he felt that Vito went into him, which created the contact, which made his player come down.
Right.
And I said, oh, that's a good point. I saw a re-reach on that play. I saw him vertical, and then he came down, like the swipe, what you were saying. And he just said, okay.
All right. So that's great. Really good. If you just say to him, what's his first name? Chase?
Chase.
Yeah, Chase, yeah. Chase, that's a swipe down with his left arm. And then that goes right to what he's trying to coach.
There you go. Okay, that's good. It gets to the point.
Yeah.
Good point. Excellent point. And also, let's
Put that play on there, Jenna, because you know I had it.
I knew that you had it, of course. No.
Yeah.
Funny, yeah. But my supervisor is the one that also said to be thinking about offensive foul on this. So I've just got a lot of different perspectives. So it's been an interesting one.
Yeah.
That's correct. And Jenna, from your perspective and lead, from your position on the floor, as this play developed, were you able to pick up the contact with the offensive player's knee into the defender, or was his body shielding your vision?
No, I mean, I'm so wide on this play. Like, you can argue I'm too wide, to be honest, but I'm so wide. I'm able to see, like we've been talking about, the open look on this play. And so I'm able to see everything that's happening. It didn't rise to the point where I was like, oh, that's too much for me, for the knee, him leading with the knee. It didn't seem like it was an unnatural movement. But I was able to see everything. I think if I was closed in on this play, I wouldn't be able to get to that re-reach and him coming down swiping, because it would be too close and I think it would close off to me. So I've been working on being really wide this year, and it's helped my game out tremendously. So
excellent. And I like your position on the play. I think you're in a great position to see the entire play.
Jenna, I think that for that to be an offensive foul, that has to be more of an overt action. I mean, it's one of those things, like, if we have to run this thing back 4 or 5 times to decide whether or not he's leading with the knee, then it's not enough of an overt action. It's got to be the elephant in the room. It's like, oh, wow, wait a minute. Hold it. I can't have defensive foul here. What you did was too egregious. I've got to go offense. And that didn't reach that at all.
Another good point. Excellent point. Do we have any other follow-up to this play, this clip, before we move forward? Great job, Jenna. Thank you for walking us through it, taking it through it step by step. We have one more clip to review, and we're going to review the clip submitted by Stephanie. Stephanie, are you on the call with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Excellent. Okay, once again, we'll play the clip a couple of times. And then Stephanie can walk us through her perspective of the play. Okay, we're in transition, and Stephanie, you're in C, correct?
Yes. Yeah. I'm in C, and we're in transition. Sorry, the clip is so short. But he gets past this initial primary defender. There was no contact. He broke his ankles, turned around, spun everything. So I pick up that primary defender who was in my primary when he gets past him. So he lands on the floor. And I didn't initially pick up this secondary defender that comes up. But from what I picked up, I didn't see the play start, develop, and finish. But from what I picked up, he looked vertical from my angle. So from my perspective, he was vertical. But the kid on the floor was not in legal guarding position. So my whistle goes off because he lands on top of the kid that's on the floor. The conversation with the coach, I reported it to the coach, or I reported it to the table, and then had a very animated coach going after me because he felt that he thought I called it on the vertical defender. And then he started talking to me about how I could possibly call it on the kid on the floor. And I explained he wasn't in legal guarding position and he was putting the airborne shooter at risk, everything like that. And then I had the same conversation. The kid on the floor is one of the captains, great kid and great leader for his team too. So I was able to have a conversation with him too about what he did wrong. And I basically said, hey, it really does. It's awful. And I'm sorry that I had to call something on him, but that kid went to the floor and could have hurt himself pretty bad as an airborne shooter. So I had the whistle on the kid on the floor.
Okay. Were you able to, as this play developed, were you able to pick up the location of the secondary defender as the drive went down the lane?
I was, but I picked up on him late because when the kid went to the floor, I thought he was going to trip the ball handler. So I was watching him on the floor versus watching the secondary defender. So I picked up on him a little bit later than I would have liked to.
Okay, so whose primary responsibility is it to pick up the secondary defender?
So he's right in the middle of the lane. In high school, the C is supposed to pick up anything on their side. Even so, like in high school, there are no secondary defenders. So the C is supposed to pick up anything on his or her side of the lane. He's technically right in the middle. I would say that's lead's primary. That secondary defender, whatever you want to call it, is lead primary.
Okay, and if we just want to talk a little bit about positioning, as it's paused here, we can recognize that we cannot see the lead nor the trail, right? Mm-hmm. So like Al was saying earlier, and the importance of having a sense of urgency to get down to the lead is huge, right? Because we're the ones that are responsible for a secondary defender. I know in college and other levels, and here it's in the middle, so he needs to be able to have an opinion on this play as well. And trail as well. I mean, trail is not even in the frame here. So even though the ball is in transition, you don't want to get ahead of it, but you definitely need to be ready to assist on this play because you're pretty much the only one that's refereeing all of these players on the paint. And that's a lot of responsibility for you.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Stephanie, it's Lauren. What did you report to the table? What was your signal to the table?
A block.
Okay, good.
So Stephanie, just so I'm clear, you called the foul on the kid on the floor?
Yes.
Okay. I would, and Al mentioned something about this on the chat. I would argue that this is a pure blocking foul. I think the defender walks right into the offensive player. I don't think he's legal. So I think it's a blocking foul and the kid's still standing up.
For sure.
It's too much.
In retrospect, I would 100% agree with that.
Way too much to pass on. And if we call it, in the purest sense of the form, if we've called the foul on the kid laying on the ground, when the contact occurs, he's clearly not in his upper shooting motion. When the contact occurs with the kid on the ground, but the overt illegal act, the obvious part of this play is that he's in his shooting motion, and the defender was not legal. And so we may have got it right for the wrong reasons, but I love the fact that you had a whistle from slot on the play. Absolutely love it. It was a cadence whistle too, because lead's giving no assistance. And if we don't blow on this play, there is some heat that we're going to have to diffuse in the next 60 seconds, and it could get pretty ugly.
And I mean, I think this is another good example of the lead. He overruns the play. If you watch, when the contact happens and we finally see him again, he's walking back toward the end line. So if he would have hustled down and gotten right on the E up toward the end line at the beginning, then I think he would have been able to help. But because he runs and goes so deep, he's wide, he's deep, and he's not able to help for whatever reason on this play. But yeah, to your point, Jason, I mean, that's a great cadence whistle. It's clearly, you know, a foul on this guy right here who steps through. But then if you don't pick that up, it's definitely a foul on the guy on the floor. He doesn't allow the airborne shooter to come back down on the floor.
So how do I, in that moment, and I know we talked about recognizing what our partners can't see, everything like that. When it comes to this play, is this another one with the lifting principle where I'm supposed to, there's that expectation that I do pick up that secondary defender, or do I stick to that primary defender that's going to be behind that, the ball handler? How do I handle that so that I do get it right for the right reasons, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. As soon as that ball handler gets past the primary defender, right, you lift your eyes, you go find that secondary defender. If that backside defender does something, it's going to be overt and you're going to see it. So get to that secondary defender, and then once the offensive player starts their upward motion, that's when you now take your eyes to point of contact, and we'll know whether that secondary defender is legal. In this case, he's not, so any contact, we would just have a block. If he is legal and you go to point of contact, basically, you know, elbow to wrist, you'll see if that secondary defender does anything illegal.
Okay, thanks.
And another thing that I noticed, Steph, that I like about this is when you call the foul, you recognize that there were bodies on the floor, and we weren't in a rush to get to the table, you know, because I know a lot of the times we can just get in a hurry. So you took a second, you stayed there and make sure your partners are on these players, because we have multiple bodies on the floor, right? So we want to make sure that we have eyes on that. So for the other two officials, remember, as soon as the whistle is blown, our attention needs to go up, right? Because the last thing we want is somebody kicking someone or elbowing someone. So I really liked how you were patient here, and you stayed at the spot there, and not left it too early.
Okay, thanks.
I just have a question. You said in high school there's no secondary defenders?
Yeah, there's not a definition of a secondary defender. So like on a drive from C, if the next defender moves over into C's half of the lane, they have to pick up that next defender.
If I may, Stephanie, and I'm sure you're trying to get here, right? You're trying to advance as far as you can go, correct?
Absolutely, yeah.
So, and someone can tell me to go fly a kite, but you need to take these habits, and high school or not, and tell yourself that's a secondary defender.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And that,
yeah.
And just referee like you were if this was a Division I men, women game, whatever you're aspiring to be. So, you know, I know people need to do high school games because they don't have, maybe their schedule's not getting where it should be, right? And maybe that's where some of us, you know, some people are, but we have to be careful that once our D3, D2, once that starts taking off, we got to stop doing these. We have to stop doing high school. Does that make sense?
No, it does. Bia said the thing.
Okay, so just be careful, and I would just treat your games. I mean, hey, those games are important. Don't get me wrong; it's important to those kids, those coaches, and those parents that are sitting in the stands. And so, you know, George Tolliver always taught us in the in the program, and same with Ed. You know, you treat every game as though it may be your last. You know, because it's very, very, very important. However, there are things that you can be doing to work on your craft while doing a high school game, if that's fair to say.
No, it's absolutely fair. Yes.
Good. And 2 quick points. And one we've already discussed and has already been offered. Yes, we have to maintain, it's something we've discussed previously. We have to maintain our eye discipline. Once this offensive player gets beyond and past his primary defender, now at this point on the clip, we have to immediately go to that secondary help defender to judge their legality. And I believe if we had shifted our eyes quicker and picked him up quicker, I believe that would have helped us on the conclusion of this play. We'd have picked up his legality at the point of contact.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that would have simplified the play for you prior to him landing on the player on the floor. And then my last point, which Stephanie knows well, I'm pleased she went up with her left hand. I'm very pleased.
Hey, it's not an offensive foul, though. I still got to work on that. But that one looks okay, yeah.
Good job. I can learn from you about this. Good job.
You're welcome, Jenna.
All right. This was our 4th and final clip for the day. I think we had great discussions, great breakdowns, great observations. I love everyone's passion. I love the fact that everyone is open and willing to share. And I love the fact that everyone's willing to talk to each other. I've got a question and then a challenge for everyone. First, my question is this. This is our 6th meeting, correct? This is meeting 6. And I know that everyone who's attended, everyone's paid attention, everyone's taken notes, they've written their notes in their journals, and we've taken away great stuff from these, from every meeting that we've had. Now the question is, what have you done with that information when the meeting ended? From last Wednesday to this Wednesday, what have we done? It's a rhetorical question, no one needs to answer. But ask yourself, what have we done with this information that we gathered? It's not enough to sit here and listen to it and take it in and then leave it on the screen or leave it in your journal. You must follow up and you must rehearse, practice, you must put action with your knowledge in order for us to continue to get 1% better every day. So I challenge each and every one of us to continue to work hard with the information we receive. Take what we discussed, take the information, and yes, let's utilize it, practice it, and let's get better from day to day. Does anyone have any closing comments or observations before we close for the day?
I just want to share really quickly. I want to thank everyone for being on the call, and we really appreciate your interaction. And like Wayne said, it's really cool that we all get to, do this together and get better together. But I do want to talk a little bit about the Core Club Elite Foundation, which is, we talked about it briefly the other day. And we're actually happy to say that we've been able to help people, during this COVID-19. So if you guys know of anybody that needs any help, whether it's financially or anything else, just please feel free to reach out. And with that, if you have, like we talked about earlier, anything helps, right? So, but more importantly, if anybody needs help, I love that they're making a change, and ultimately we want to help others and be able to give back to others. So again, just thank you all for being part of all of this. And if anyone has anything else, I think we're good.
Can I just add one thing before we go?
Of course.
Yeah, for high school basketball. For high school basketball, there's 2 acceptable manuals. There's the National Federation Manual and there's the IBO Manual. And the IBO Manual does mention secondary defenders and how to referee them. So either manual can be used for high school basketball. Just a quick.
That is correct. And Stephanie, I believe you have a copy of the IBO Manual, correct?
I actually don't, Wayne. I never got mine delivered to me.
Okay.
I would love it. I'll reach out about that. I'll figure that out.
There you go. And it is another great reference point for us. All right. Does anyone
I just thought I wanted to mention that because it's really a good manual. It's really good. Sorry.
I agree 100%. I do agree 100%.
And for those that don't have it, how can they get it?
They can just go online to ibo.org and say, hey, I would like to become a member, or I would just like to buy your manual.
Okay.
So.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, Al.
Yeah.
Yes, and to follow up on that, B, for those who are here locally, there's a group that we were meeting every Sunday night pre-pandemic that is focused on high school basketball. And that group is utilizing the IABO manual. And if you join the group, you will receive a manual that comes with your joining. So yes, there are multiple ways and multiple opportunities to receive this information. And I would highly suggest it for those of you who are working high school, those of you who are progress.
Yes, Wayne, we do have one in the Oklahoma chapter that you're referring to. The Oklahoma chapter, we are a local chapter for IABO. And
Excellent. Thanks, Scott D. Appreciate that, brother. All right. Are there any other announcements, any other comments, observations before we close for the day? Hey, I want to thank each and every one of you for being here with us today. It is, I mean, it's really appreciative, and we're helping each other grow. All right, we will be here next Wednesday, 2:00. We will post and announce the next topic, and we will keep this thing rolling. All right, thank everyone for attending. Everyone be safe. Take care of your families and your loved ones. We will see you soon. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.